What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Pick Six Podcast, CBS Sports Daily NFL Podcast. I'm Will Brinson. I'm your host. It is Thursday, June the 4th, and we are rolling right through our All 32 series. We are going to talk some Pats with a good friend of the program, multiple-time guest, I believe, Ben Volin of the Boston Globe. Ben, what's up, buddy?
Will, they should give you some kind of award for doing a daily podcast during the NFL offseason during a pandemic. I'm impressed that you have enough content to come up with a daily podcast. So kudos to you, man.
Well, you know what's even crazier, Ben, is so Debo had the idea to do the All 32 series where we take a look at each NFL team. And in order to jam these in before what we hope will be training camp, we're doing 2 a day, Tuesday through Friday, every single NFL team. So technically 2 podcasts a day. And here's the problem is that when Debo and our boss, EK, who you know, plan this stuff out, they talk about how they're going to handle the podcasting and all that. It's like, all right, let's do a 20-minute podcast on each NFL team. And then I start blabbering on, and like all of a sudden me and JP Finley are talking about like widespread panic or something. You know, and so like we will try not to keep it too long. But today we'll talk Pats. And not really anything going on with, by the way, people need to know this. Ben, who we know each other for like 10 years now, I think, right? At least.
Yeah, something like that.
It's pretty crazy. You have covered, you worked at various newspapers and but every stop of the way, everywhere you go, something insane happens. And since you have landed, like you got the incognito Bullygate with the Palm Beach Post back in the day. You covered Tebow at Florida, right?
Yeah.
And since you've been at the Patriots, you've presided over, since you've been at the Boston Globe covering the Patriots, you've presided over like multiple gates. You've presided over a Tom Brady suspension. And now presided over Tom Brady leaving for Tampa Bay. So where does Tom Brady leaving for Tampa Bay rank on the Ben Volin scale of crazy crap you've seen?
Yeah, I hate to say it's kind of small potatoes.
I believe it. I mean,
especially at this point, it's not like Tom Brady is in the midst of his career and it's prime Tom Brady. It's 43-year-old Tom Brady who's already spent 20 years with the Patriots. So it's not the craziest idea that the Patriots would have moved on from Tom Brady. And then when you compare it to my first month here, I'm all of a sudden covering a murder trial with Aaron Hernandez, and then a couple years later, going down every couple months to New York, to the steps where they film Law and Order, to go to the lawsuit of Tom Brady against the NFL over deflated footballs. So we've seen some pretty crazy stuff here in New England, and Brady, his decision to leave when it came in mid-March, it was right in the middle of like when the pandemic was just starting and all of society was starting to shut down. And it was a really sad week in Boston, just in general. Everything's getting canceled and shut down, and life as we know it is ending. And on top of it all, Tom Brady is leaving the Patriots. So in a way, it almost eased the sting a little bit, I think, of Brady leaving, just because there was all this other sad crap going on, and there was bigger things to worry about than just Tom Brady.
Yeah, and I mean, like the other thing too is like, excuse me, I think that seeing Tom Brady in a Buccaneers uniform and imagining Tom Brady going to the Buccaneers is so surreal. Just seeing Tom Brady play for a team other than the Patriots, so surreal that it's almost just felt like this like long fever dream, because like, I mean, look, there have been a lot of weird things that have happened in my life, in 40 years on this earth. I mean, I think coronavirus and like locking down the entire country and the pandemic of COVID-19 is maybe the weirdest one. And so like to have the Brady thing happen, it almost felt like this, just like we just veered left into an alternate timeline. Does that make sense?
There was that time we had the glow puck in hockey. That was probably the only other time that just as weird as now as the pandemic. But that
was crazy that Fox thought they should do that. They're like, let's make the puck glow, and that'll make hockey more popular.
I bet with college students it was pretty popular, like late night hockey with the college kids. But it's weird seeing Brady with the Buccaneers and not playing with the Patriots. I honestly thought that this was going to be one of those deals where there'd be a lot of bickering in the media back and forth. And at the end, both sides would find a way to make it happen. But I give the Patriots some credit. They stuck to their guns, and I don't really think they really wanted Tom Brady back at this point, and they, I think, decided to move on. Not the most popular decision, but probably the right one at this point. Last year was such a grind and such a slog for the Patriots. The offense, constant, frustration from Brady about the pieces they put around him and some of the young receivers, and just do we really want to go through another year of Brady just like passive aggressively griping about everything and sending these coded messages through the media and, just kind of being a sourpuss, which, did happen a lot last year. And so I think, when they fizzled out in the wild card round against Tennessee, I think it was a clear sign that it was just time. It's been an incredible 20 years, but the relationship has run its course. And, the Patriots, Bill Belichick especially, he wants to move on to the next era. And I don't know if it's going to be Jarrett Stidham or if, the next era, the new quarterback isn't found yet. But it's been 2 amazing decades, and it's definitely time to move on from the Tom Brady experience.
So I want to kind of touch on something you said a little bit, and we'll get to the Pats and Jarrett Stidham and all that in a second. But I am curious, so I sort of said, I've been saying this since he bolted from the Patriots and issued that statement. I feel like the Patriots said no, thank you, but allowed Tom Brady and then maybe implicitly allowed him, didn't tell him this, I don't think, but sort of allowed it to play out in a way that made it look like Tom Brady was leaving, because that is better for Tom Brady and it makes the split look better. Like they made it seem like it was mutual, but to me, it felt like Belichick finally was given the authority from Robert Kraft to say, if you want to bail on Brady, so be it.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think Robert Kraft realized he had to pick one or the other, and I think he smartly picked Bill Belichick.
Sure.
If you talk about who's going to lead the Patriots into long-term success well beyond next season, it's Bill Belichick, whereas Tom Brady probably only has 1 or 2 years left. So I think that was a sensitive topic around Foxborough the last few years with the whole Jimmy Garoppolo situation, and Belichick clearly didn't want to give up on him and felt like he was forced to trade him by the ownership. So that's been a sensitive topic, and I think the Crafts smartly backed Belichick on this one and decided that whatever the coach was going to decide here, that was the way to go. And they had to take some bad cap hits here for this year, but it's the start of a rebuild, and they're going to be finding the next young, clearing out some cap space and developing the next young cornerstone players. And I think Belichick's going to look forward to this challenge of rebuilding the Patriots now without Tom Brady. So it's and they did frame it as this was Tom's decision. That was
Sure.
a big thing from the Crafts. This was Tom's decision, but I think some of that's PR too. I think Kraft didn't want to be known as the guy who drove off Tom Brady. And, from everything I was told, yeah, they kept the door open for Brady, but they didn't make serious offers. And they hoped that he would kind of take the hint that, it was time to move on. I think Brady eventually did.
It's like you don't want to break up with somebody, so you just stop returning calls. Stop replying to text and just hope that she, in my case, now I'm not saying I do this, but hypothetically, she's like, I'm dumping you. You're like, you hate to see it. I really hate that you have to do that.
They ghosted on him a little bit.
Exactly. So, okay. So what do you make of the Patriots' decisions or lack of decisions, I guess, this offseason as it relates to the quarterback position? I mean, I think what Bill Belichick has done, and obviously he has the full power to do whatever he wants with that roster. It's, to me, he's made some very clear statements without actually saying it that he believes in Jarrett Stidham. Am I right or wrong there?
Yes and no. I'm not quite buying the Jarrett Stidham hype like everyone else is. In fact, Rob Ninkovich, former Patriot who's now with ESPN, he made a comment last week that he actually thinks Brian Hoyer is going to start early in the season. And a large reason of it is, no OTAs, no off-season work. Who knows what training camp's going to look like? And Jarrett Stidham, look, he might have the talent, but 4th-round pick who has played 1 year in a league, thrown 4 passes, all in garbage time, and one of them was a pick six. So there's no way that Belichick and the Patriots are sitting back and looking at him being like, oh, that's the guy. He's the heir apparent to Tom Brady. So, look, I think what they've decided is it's probably a year or two of rebuilding in New England, where they were the oldest team in the league last year. They're going to start to clear out some of the veterans, clean up the salary cap. They're in terrible cap space this year. So it's cleaning up for the future and figuring out who the next key cornerstones are. And Jarrett Stidham is a minimum salary guy for the next 3 years. So if he is good, you've got a major advantage over the rest of the NFL. And to me, like a guy like Cam Newton or Andy Dalton, that's not going to be the future of your franchise no matter what. So what's the point in spending money and playing time on those guys? You might as well see what you've got in Jarrett Stidham. So I think that's what it more is. They're kind of rebuilding the franchise, and before deciding next year that they need to invest a big pick in a quarterback, they want to see what they've got with Jarrett Stidham and give him a chance. And again, I don't even know if he's going to start all 16 games. Maybe Hoyer starts early in the season, but certainly not the most inspiring quarterback depth chart by any means. And it'll be fascinating to see how good of a coach Belichick is if he can take Brian Hoyer and Jarrett Stidham and still go like 9-7 or 10-6.
So are the Patriots rebuilding? I mean, are they retooling? I mean, or is it just like there's people out there? Jason Lockenfora floated on this podcast, and Pete Prisco did the same thing because Pete's a little sheep who follows what other people think. I don't really believe that. I just like sideswiping Pete because I know he won't listen unless I leak his top 100 list on this podcast. He's like they think Belichick's tanking, and I don't believe Belichick has a tanking bone in his body.
You are 100% correct. The Patriots are not tanking. That is asinine. And what's funny is when they drafted Jimmy Garoppolo back in 2014, Belichick was asked about it, and he talked about how that's a position you need to be really prepared at. And he, off course, like kind of off tangent, just started ripping the Colts for the year that they lost Peyton Manning and the team had nothing and they went 2-14. He was talking about how irresponsible it would be to not have your team prepared like that. So just the idea of tanking is just so abhorrent to Bill Belichick. So there's no way that's going to happen. And then you look at the roster move. They brought back Devin McCourty on a 2-year deal. They gave Joe Thuney the franchise tag. They just gave Patrick Chung, who's in his 12th year, a pay raise for this year. So they're not just tanking. They still have Stephon Gilmore, Dante Hightower, a very good offensive line. I do think they're retooling the offense, and I think it's probably a multi-year deal they've gotten really stale on offense, and they need to, kind of join the rest of the league with more athleticism at quarterback and more RPO type of stuff. But I still think they're going to have a good offensive line. They gave the franchise tag to Thuney. That really fortifies the line. They're going to have a good defense again. They're returning most of the number one defense. So they'll be competitive, and it might be a grind, and it might be ugly. They're not going to win shootouts, but, they are retooling and rebuilding on offense, but they're not tanking. So I still think they're going to be competitive this year.
See, and the other thing too, I mean, and maybe I'm giving Bill Belichick too much credit, but that doesn't feel like I'm sort of okay, like erring on the side of giving Bill Belichick too much credit for being the smartest guy in the room. But I sort of think that like he saw this offseason and as it was sort of unfolding and was like, you know what? As the pandemic is this is happening in February. I mean, he's not playing in the Super Bowl, so he's got a little more time to sort of survey the larger landscape that he might otherwise have, in a year where they are making a deep playoff run. And I tend to think that Belichick might have said, all right, look, it doesn't do me any good to bring in 3 quarterbacks who don't know my system or don't know Josh's system, who I don't know. What makes sense is signing, like we got Stidham in the house. We were Stidham in the house. I don't know why I said that. House party. Bring in Brian Hoyer, who again, not inspiring, but knows what the Patriots want to do. And that Belichick, so like one, there's this quarterback market that's different than it's ever been. And then 2, in theory, been in an off season where you're going to have limited time to get everything together. you would almost want to simplify what you do on offense across the board, whether it's the Patriots or the Cowboys with Dak and Mike McCarthy. I mean, whatever team you are, like if you can go out there and be a meat and potatoes, run the football aggressively, play great defense team, I think there's a lot less variance there if that's what you're leaning on in this particular season. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I would agree completely. And the one thing you hear over and over is that the teams with continuity are going to be the ones that have the best chance of success this year, just because of how unusual the practice schedule is going to be, and just with everything with the pandemic. I mean, no off season, no training camp, who knows? So the teams that have continuity, you look at like the Carolina Panthers, new coach, new quarterback, new coordinators. That's a lot to ask in this offseason. Whereas the Patriots, while I don't know if Stidham and Hoyer are any good anymore, they at least, as you said, they know the Patriots system, and the Patriots know that they know the deal and know how to practice and know the offense and all that. So, yeah, I mean, I don't think Belichick sat there in February when society was still going on as normal and expected football to get really messed up. But I think, that was all happening early March, mid-March, right? And that probably did affect their free agency plans. And maybe they would have gone out and signed some sort of value veteran quarterback, just nothing else as a camp arm. And instead they decided we're just going to stick with what we've got right now. Just because Brian Hoyer and Jared Stidham, they know what it means to be a Patriot, and no one else, that's going to be so difficult this year with everything that's unique with the pandemic. So yeah, I definitely think that the continuity aspect played in Stidham's favor this time.
I brought this up on a different podcast, so apologies to listeners who are like, stop with this stupid theory of yours. But like Georgia Tech, the basketball team, was I think they were the 8th seed in the ACC tournament, and they were a bubble team for the NCAA tournament. But on March 2nd, like out of nowhere, they dropped their appeal of the like the NCAA was trying to was investigating them, and they were appealing it. They just out of nowhere dropped their appeal, withdrew from the ACC tournament, and took a postseason ban. But it ended up being a genius. And I think they did it on purpose. I think they saw the landscape. We're like, you know what? There might not be a tournament this year, and even if we sneak in, we're going to be like a mid-seed, and it might not happen. So they bailed on it. They dropped their appeal. They take the punishment now. They can come back and be in the postseason next year. I just think that like there are sports teams and people, and I don't know. That's, I guess, so I think Bill Belichick could have been like, okay, maybe we should sort of start to think forward about what might happen depending on how this all plays out. And I'm not saying he's right or wrong. I just think that I think keep it simple, stupid is sort of a philosophy for him this offseason in the sense that he doesn't need, like you say, a bunch of new – I mean, Teddy Bridgewater might have played with Joe Brady in New Orleans. That's great. But, like, these guys aren't going to be on the same page in Carolina. I mean, it's just not going to happen. Like, Dak Prescott and all those wide receivers in Mike McCarthy's system the first month of the season are probably going to struggle to be, on point with the offense. I think Belichick wants to – just minimize the number of mistakes he can make. Now, maybe Stidham stinks and Hoyer's washed and it doesn't matter, but I don't know. I just think there's something to that idea.
Yeah. And again, another thing you hear from people is with how unusual everything's going to be this year. And it's really going to tax the coaches to see how creative they can get to help prepare their players and get them ready to play. And in that sort of situation, is there anyone you'd rather have than Bill Belichick? Is there any doubt that he's going to figure out the best way to get his team ready, even though they won't have joint practices, and even full team practices might be limited. We think of football as a team sport, but so much of practice is individual now, Will, and you're going to see, I think, teams just split up the practices into individual drills and really only have like full 7-on-7 and 11-on-11, like very limited portions of the day. But this type of season is gonna certainly be in Belichick's advantage. 2011, the year of the lockout, the Patriots made the Super Bowl. So there's no other coach I'd rather have to figure this stuff out right now. And that's another thing. Yeah, in a normal year, maybe the Patriots, they struggle in their first year post Tom Brady, but everything's going to be weird this year, and maybe the coaching advantage is more significant than usual.
Okay. I think you're probably onto something. And again, who would you rather have outside of Bill Belichick? What's a storyline because obviously the quarterback thing beaten into the ground. What's a storyline people are not talking about as it relates to the Patriots that they should be kind of eyeing? What do you think?
Well, the quarterback thing, and A, can Stidham play, and B, can Belichick win without Brady? Those are the two stories of the year,
Right.
and those are by far the most dominant stories. They have some intrigue, like N'Keal Harry. Can he develop this year? And the defense, are they still going to be as solid? One thing that will be interesting is they doubled up on tight end in the third round. They drafted Devin Asiasi and Dalton Keene, the first kid from UCLA, the second kid from Virginia Tech. And it's reminiscent of 2010 when they doubled up, or 2009 they got Gronk, and then 20.
No, it was 2009. It was the second round Gronk and third round Aaron Hernandez.
Well, then Hernandez was 2010. But anyway,
it was?
Yeah, Hernandez.
No, they were the same draft, right?
Was Gronk 2010? I'm blanking.
They were rookies together, and I think it was 2010 because in 2009 they lost to the Ravens and that they got blown out at home.
That was the season that Gronk sat out at Arizona. You think I know all this stuff off the top of my head?
I mean, look, see now again, I disagree, Ben. We have been quarantined for going on several months now. I forget basic facts of life each and every day. I tell people this, like people who listen to this podcast, like if you don't give some leeway for quarantine brain, it's just an unfair. So you have two kids at home. It's perfect.
Yeah, I mean, I could tell you every episode of Sesame Street and Tiger. I don't know anything about like the real world, right?
I know. Name a plot of like a plot line of The Office. I can tell you what season and what episode it is, but I can't tell you what's happening outside my house. Anyway, I think you're onto something.
So yeah, the Patriots had the worst production from tight end last year in the NFL. They did nothing. They were caught with their pants down when Gronk retired, and just had nothing at the position, and it killed the offense all season. So they doubled up first with Devin Asiasi out of UCLA, and then Dalton Keene like 10 picks later out of Virginia Tech. And who knows? Draft picks are all 50-50 toss-ups. So I think realistically, you hope one of them pans out. But tight end has just been such an important part of their offense over the years, and gave them just so little last year. So it'll be fascinating to observe the two rookie tight ends and see if the Patriots can get back to getting something out of that position.
That would have actually been my if I was picking a headline that's not getting enough attention, that would have been my choice too. Do you know anything about these guys? I drafted one of them in a dynasty league, and I think it was let's see, it wasn't Asiasi, was it? Who did I draft? I think I drafted Dalton Keene.
Yeah. He's more of like a move tight end.
Yeah, well, it's, for a fantasy league, it was like.
The Patriots. There's talk about how they could use him as a fullback a little bit, or just kind of out of the backfield. So he's, I think, more of a versatile piece. Whereas Asiasi, I think, he'll be a traditional inline tight end. He'll be a red zone target. I think they'll use him to block. He's more of your traditional tight end, and Keene, I think, is more of an H-back type. So again, that's.
Sounds
Gronk and Hernandez.
I know. Sounds a lot like. I mean, we're not saying that Devin Asiasi is Rob Gronkowski and Dalton Keene is Aaron Hernandez. We're not making that comparison by any stretch, but it is reminiscent of what they did in 2009. And I think you could potentially make a comparison to Jarrett Stidham too. I hesitate to do this, but like when Tom Brady came on for the Patriots, he didn't show up and start throwing for 5,000 passing yards. He was a game manager who made plays late in the game and made clutch throws, and just had a knack for big moments. And who knows if Stidham could do that, but he has a good pedigree, and he's been there for a year now. So maybe he can be a game manager who makes some clutch throws. It's a hard thing to do. I'm not saying it's easy to do, but there people who expect Jarrett Stidham to come in and throw the ball 600 times are probably sort of off kilter with their expectations, I tend to think.
I do think Stidham will have to be more explosive than what Brady and the Patriots were in 2001. You could really win with defense back then. I think now you still need offense. And, during quarantine, they've been showing a lot of the old Patriots games. And, that 2001 playoff run, it's a lot of two tight ends. It's a lot of fullback. It's a lot of check down in the flat. check down to Troy Brown over the middle, check down to the flat. Like, it's just a lot of quick, short passes. And I think that type of philosophy could work well with Stidham, where it's just going to be designed reads and get the ball out quickly and don't sit there in the pocket. But I do think you're going to have to be more explosive than that in today's NFL. And I mean, we'll see. There's a lot of hype about Stidham. A lot of Patriots fans, I think, are getting way ahead of themselves, and they think that just because Stidham is going to be probably the quarterback this year, that Belichick thinks he's the guy, and they know what they've got. I mean, it's very rare for a fourth-round pick to just be an instant success as an NFL starting quarterback. But, I do understand giving him the opportunity. They obviously like him, and he's cheap enough. He's a bare minimum salary guy for the next 3 seasons. So if he is any good, that's a huge advantage the Patriots have over the rest of the NFL.
For sure. All right, let's take a quick break, and when we come back, we will rip through a little more Patriots chatter. Okay, so the Patriots are so weird. I mean, it's like they're not weird. It's just that we've been talking about these other teams, and like the storyline for the Bills is, can Josh Allen take a leap? It's very easy to, like, for the Cowboys, it's like, what are they going to do with Dak Prescott? And for the Patriots, it's like, I mean, again, it's how to replace Brady. I mean, all right, I'll ask you this. Can the defense be as good as it was last year?
Yeah, it's funny. It's like 31 other teams around the league just drive themselves in a tizzy, like going crazy trying to find quarterbacks and, just drafting them year after year and signing guys. And, the Miami Dolphins have been 20 years since Dan Marino and still haven't been able to find a quarterback. Meanwhile, the Patriots lose Tom Brady and they're like, whatever, we'll just sign Hoyer, and we got Stidham last year, we'll make it work. It's like there's no panic in them. And they're just they clearly don't view it as give it the position the importance that other teams around the league do. So that's been really fascinating. I do think the defense can be very good, but I think they're bound to take a step back in 2020. They had the easiest schedule in the NFL by far last year. And even the games that on paper looked tough, they got lucky and played backup quarterbacks or third string quarterbacks. And a lot of their stats were skewed by having this just really easy schedule, and through no fault of their own. It was just part of the natural schedule rotation, and just the teams they played all had really crappy quarterbacks last year. They really feasted on some bad teams. And then when they played some good teams like Baltimore, the Ravens put up 37 on them. They ran all over them. And the Titans were able to move the ball on the Patriots. So I think for that reason, the schedule, not only won't it be as easy this year, they now have the most difficult schedule in the NFL, and it's brutal. Their travel schedule. They go at Seattle, at Kansas City, 2 games in a row in Los Angeles against both the teams there. They go at Houston, at Miami, which is now a much tougher game, at Buffalo, which is a tougher game. Just so many miles, so many difficult environments, and you're not going there with Tom Brady anymore. You're going there with Jarrett Stidham or Brian Hoyer. So the defense is going to have to be the 85 Bears this year for the Patriots to really, be a true contender. I still think they'll be good and will keep the Patriots competitive, but I do think they will regress to the mean a little bit this year.
Yeah, I mean it was like I think I even wrote a story where we did a podcast discussing it. Like, are the Patriots the greatest defense of all time 6 weeks in? And they really hadn't played anybody. I mean, like, it was like the best quarterback they played was Josh Allen.
Or like Daniel Jones, and that was on a Thursday night in Foxborough. It's like, they had just had every little advantage going in their favor last year. And, like, that's fine. I mean, other teams weren't beating up on those teams like the Patriots were. I mean, it's not like they were just winning games. They were dominating. Yeah. Stephon Gilmore had 2 pick sixes against Andy Dalton.
That's right. Yeah.
So, it's not like – so you give them credit. I mean, they were just absolutely dominating these teams, but they were just beating up on crappy teams. And once they played good teams, they were exposed a little bit. They were still a very good defense, and they still are going to be a very good defense this year. Devin McCourty's back. Dante Hightower. Patrick Chung is a key piece. Stephon Gilmore, reigning Defensive Player of the Year. They have maybe the best cornerback group and maybe the best secondary in the league still. So
sure.
The defense is going to be solid. And they added, some rookies and some speed up front.
Well, I was going to ask, what do we make of, and or what do we expect from my man Kyle Duggar and perfectly Belichickian, by the way, to draft you let his dog draft a Division II, hybrid linebacker safety out of Lenore Ryan with his first pick after trading out of the first round. I mean, it's like lean into the stereotype a little more, Bill.
Had someone joke that Belichick mistakenly ordered off the wine list for that one. But Duggar he's a real prospect though. Even though he's a Division II kid, he went to the Senior Bowl. He was, being drafted 37th overall. That was where everyone expected of him. He was definitely a rare talent at the Division II level. So the Patriots, I don't think, reached for him, and he's supposed to be a tremendous athlete. Again, one of these hybrid, oversized safeties, undersized linebackers, the type of players that really are becoming the most important defenders in today's NFL, who can play the run but also play man-to-man coverage. So when the Patriots drafted him, I was very surprised to then see the Patriots bring back Patrick Chung for another year. I thought for sure this would be the end of Patrick Chung, but I think they want to redshirt Duggar. This is not the year to be counting on rookies, especially guys from Division II, with the lack of practice and preparation that they're going to get. So I think Patrick Chung will still be the man, and he'll be Duggar's mentor, and Duggar will play special teams this year, and he'll have some role in the defense. And I expect the same out of their other top picks. Josh Uche, a linebacker out of Michigan in the second round, and Anthony Jennings, a linebacker out of Alabama in the third round. They'll have roles this year, but Belichick usually brings his rookies along slowly. Just, it's a big transition from college to the pros. So, the front seven, Belichick has always believed that he doesn't need the elite pass rusher, the, J.J. Watts or Von Millers. He believes that he can scheme up pressure with stunts and blitzes and things like that. And for the most part, he's been successful and correct with that. So they lost Jamie Collins. They lost Kyle Van Noy. They replaced them with some rookies and some young players, but they still have Hightower. They still have, Lawrence Guy and Adam Butler and Dietrich Wise. They still have some good players up front. So it should be a solid defense this year.
All right. So what we've been wrapping these things up by asking people, like, what is a successful season for X team? But that feels kind of dumb with the Pats. Like, what is, like, I guess, like, what do you sort of think about the AFC East as a whole, if that's not too vague a question, Ben? And like, what do you think? Because, I mean, to me, it's not like, if they go like 9-7 and win I don't know. Like, what is a good season for the Pats? Or like, what is a bad season for the Pats? Maybe that's the question.
Well, yeah. I mean, if they go 6-10 and Stidham's no good, and I mean, that's not a good season.
That's no, that's worse. Like, if Stidham stinks, at least win 2 games, like if Stidham stinks and you win 6 games, that's a nightmare.
Well, I think the true nightmare scenario is Stidham is an 8-8 quarterback. He's just good enough that you want to keep giving him a chance. This was the Ryan Tannehill paradox down in Miami. He was, showed just enough that you wanted to keep seeing if he could finally break out, but, not quite good enough to really take you to that next level. So the worst scenario, if he stinks, then that's easy. Then you move on and you draft another quarterback. But if he's, shows you just enough and goes 7-9, 8-8, then you're kind of in QB purgatory, and that could be worse. But, I mean, I still see a scenario where they can go 10-6 and still escape, win the AFC East. I think that division is wide open. The Bills, I like everything about the Bills except for their quarterback, and I think that's a major negative for them. And
yeah.
I like what the Dolphins are doing, but, maybe they're a year away, and who knows where it's wide open, and none of the teams are, really standing out. So I could see the Patriots finishing first, and I could see them finishing fourth. I think
fourth.
Yeah, it could happen. I mean, they have Jarrett Stidham and Brian Hoyer as quarterback. I mean, who's to say either of them are any good? So, to me, the worst outcome is if they are kind of like 7-9 and Stidham is up and down. You'd rather him be terrible and then go 5-11, because then you at least know that you need a quarterback.
Maybe I'm stupid, but again, like, I'm willing to it's entirely possible I'm stupid, but I'm willing to gamble on Bill Belichick. Like, I think if they are good enough to be an 8-8 team, then he will find a way to get them to 10 wins. You know what I mean? Like, I think he'll just outcoach a couple of bad NFL head coaches.
Well, that's definitely going to happen. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Like, what if they're really a 6-10 team, but he gets them to
8-8? Yeah. I mean, I guess that's entirely possible. I just, man, it is just, it's fascinating. I think it's so fascinating because I think there is a broad assumption that that the Bills or one of these teams is going to pop up and steal the division. And I just don't, I think people are overreaching on that a little bit.
If I had to pick a team to do that, it would be Miami.
Really?
I like what the Dolphins are putting together for sure.
I do too, but the hype is a little like, I guess I think they're I think they're doing it the right way. I just tend to think they're probably a year away, like you said.
Yeah, and we'll see if Tua ends up playing it all this year. But I like what Chris Greer and Brian Flores are building down there. They finished the season 5-4. They had nothing to play for in Week 17 and came into Foxborough and knocked off the Patriots and completely wrecked their season. And then they go out and they got didn't they get Byron Jones from the Cowboys? And they got
the secondary is loaded.
And then they get Tua and they had a good draft. They beefed up the offensive line some more. So if any team, I'm so anti Josh Allen. I really think that what they did last year, 10-6, wild card, lose in the first, that's their ceiling. That is as far, and I think they've got a good coordinator and they put good pieces around him, but he is so raw as a pocket passer. Like Belichick has never had an issue shutting down Josh Allen in the 3 or 4 times that they've played each other. So I think they win in spite of him, not because of him. And I think they might be due to take a step back this year.
Okay. Interesting. All right. I love it.
Bring it on, Bills Mafia. Bring it on.
I know. Could enjoy that. Enjoy that in your mentions. It's going to be a lot of fun. Bills fans are very calm and cool and in no way terrifying when they jump in your mentions. It's sort of like a few minutes ago before we recorded this, I retweeted an article about Drew Brees and Michael Thomas, and I'm just going to close Twitter for the rest of the day. All right. Anything you want to plug besides your work over there at the Boston Globe, Ben?
That's it. Just bostonglobe.com, and please check me out on Twitter at Ben Volin. And I hope we have a season this year because I want to see what Belichick and Stidham could do, and I want to see what Tom Brady and Gronk can do. I mean, it's going to be so like living these kind of parallel worlds. It'll be so fascinating. Like week 1, I'm covering Brady. I'm not even covering the Patriots.
Really?
Yeah, I'm covering Bucks at Saints. So like I really want this season to happen because like I want to cover that game. So who's covering the Pats? I mean, obviously you guys have more than one. Yeah, we'll have. I mean, they have a home opener against the Dolphins, and we'll have people there. And we're definitely covering Brady week 1, and then we're definitely covering him week 2 at his home opener in Tampa.
Wow.
And then
you're the senior. Is it senior NFL writer? Is your title?
Yeah. I mean, I kind of. Yeah, that's what we.
No, I mean that's mine too. But like, isn't it bizarre? I did not see that coming. 10 years ago, like, oh, I'm a senior NFL writer. Cool, I'll take it. But like, I guess it just means we've gotten old. I guess. So I mean, they're sending their senior NFL writer to Tom Brady's first game, and probably first home game, even when the Patriots are playing. Like that says something.
So first day of training camp, assuming there's media, I'm going to be in Tampa, not in New England.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So I'll cover the first few days of training camp. I'm going to cover week 1. I'm probably not going to cover week 2. I think someone else from our paper is going to cover week 2. But yeah, I mean, Tom Brady is still the biggest. It's arguably just as big a story in New England, if not a bigger story, how he does down there. And during the last couple months, all of our top traffic stories on our website are all Tom Brady stories. Even now, long after the decision, and now that he's been in Tampa for a long time, people still can't get enough Brady. So yeah, I mean, it's like dual beats this year: the Patriots beat and the Tom Brady beat.
That says a lot. That's pretty crazy, but I mean, a smart move on the Globe's part. I think those stories would be gobbled up with great enthusiasm. All right, follow him on Twitter at Ben Volin. Read him at the Boston Globe. Excellent stuff as always. Good to talk to you, buddy. Hope everything is good and safe with you and your fam.
You too, man. I appreciate you having me on today.